This is really a key moment in history. I think as we've understand the climate crisis that we're currently facing, sustainability is a really pressing issue. What the science is telling us is that we have a very narrow time frame, basically a decade, in which we need to make substantial changes to the way we interact with the planet. So that's an enormous task, and what we have ahead of us to do that is really unprecedented in human history, to make that kind of transition in such a short period of time.
So my name is Nick Olheiser. I've worked with Recology for 13 years now. I started back when it was Western Oregon Waste before Recology actually acquired the company. My current job title is the Organics Manager, so I oversee our 3 compost facilities we have here in Oregon. We have one south of Salem, here in McMinnville, and then we have one up in Hillsboro as well, one of our biggest facilities out in North Plains as well. So collectively we manage about 135,000 tons of residential food scraps right now as a company. You know, we are comprised of hauling operations, transfer station and recycling centers, as well as compost facilities. So anything from the collection of the material to the transportation of the material to the facilities that manage the recycling portion of it, so that the cans and bottles and plastics, we sort those from there.
Well, composting is basically sort of breaking down any type of organic material and sort of releasing it back into the soil. So it basically takes advantage of small bacteria and microorganisms that live in the soil and effectively sort of decompose or decay any organic matter and sort of break it down into smaller, more usable elements that can be taken up by plants or other organisms in the soil.
So within Oregon, each state does classify the different foods or the different waste streams a little differently. Here in Oregon, we have 3 different types. We have a type 1, which is yard debris, pretty much anything that you pick out of your front yard, from leaves, grass trimmings, branches. We accept that at all 3 of our facilities. Type 2 is manure based. While permitted, we do not accept the manure material at our 3 facilities. It does bring a lot of additional challenges to the composting process, more specifically odors. All 3 of our sites are relatively close to communities, and we understand that. So because of that risk of odor and also, you know, potential E. coli issues on the back end of our finished product, while we're permitted, we don't accept any of the manure-based material. And then the type 3 is comprised of residential food scraps mixed with yard debris. So that could be anything from pretty much anything in your kitchen. So apple, orange slices, pizza boxes can go into your cart from there, and that is then mixed with your yard debris that you take out of your yard as well. All residential food waste that you collect within your house, within your kitchen at home, as well as mixed with your yard debris, could either be direct hauled to the facility, or you can set up a collection program through Recology here in the Yamhill County. All of the material that you produce at your home can then be placed in the green lidded cart. After picking up the material from the cart, it's then dropped off at our composting facility from here, where it essentially starts the actual decomposition process here at our facility. Once the material is dropped off at the site, we process it with grinders to get it to a more manageable size, and then we essentially place it into the composting operation. From there, it takes about 110 days. The material is put in long windrows, where it's managed via monitoring for temperatures, oxygen, pH levels, to essentially make sure the material is being cooked properly. From there, we turn it throughout the process as well to make sure it's mixed thoroughly as well. After the 110 days of that process, it is then put through a screen plant where we screen out the bulkier, woodier parts of the makeup material, and then from there the finer material that falls through the screen is then placed into stockpiles, which we actually classify as our finished material. From there, everything is tested to ensure that it's not only safe for sale, but we also tested to ensure that nutrition and organic content is up to the levels that we'd like to see. pHs and CN ratios are to the levels that we'd like to see as well. And then from there, it's ready for sale to the end consumer, which could be anything from a farmer to a homeowner who's wanting to do a backyard garden, all the way to erosion control, practices throughout the state on local highways, on construction projects, and different things like that.
while we may disagree about certain specific outcomes or issues or ideas, I think most people actually connect with each other through our common humanity, that we both care about our health, we both care about our children, we both care about our families, and we care about the places that we live, our communities. And so there really is, in spite of what may be substantial disagreements about political questions, I think we really share a lot more people have a lot more things in common than we typically acknowledge.
If I had to be honest, making things less politicized, I think would really go a long way in this overall effort to help us understand, our current practices right now, while getting better, are still having these adverse effects on our planet. There is different approaches that we can make as individuals and collectively as a species to make a better world for us now and a better world for the future generations. I have a 3.5-year-old at home, and not a day goes by that I think about the future for him, and I want it to be better for him and his kids as well, and their kids.
We really do need someone on a regional and local scale to help us take advantage of that organic material as a resource, because if we don't, it generally gets wasted. Before we had organizing compost, a lot of organic debris was just burned in our yards, or worse yet, sent to the landfill. That's really one of the important things to focus on, is that it's a really valuable material. So rather than throwing organic material in a landfill where it'll decompose and not be of use to anything, if we decompose it in an organized process and return it to the soil, then those materials can be taken up again by plants. The issue is pressing, and it's facing us within this next decade that we have to make these kinds of choices. So I think that there's a much greater understanding or consensus, if you will, in terms of the need to move in that direction.
I think just an overall collective approach would be very beneficial to helping educate individuals on, again, not just the good in recycling, but if we don't do these steps, what is the adverse effects, and how is that going to look in the next 20, 30, 40 or 100 years? Overall,
there's a greater recognition that we are going to have to make this type of transition. How we do it is still in question, but I think there's an emerging consensus that agrees that we need to move in that direction, and move in that direction fairly quickly.